Welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast with Eric Thompson.
Inspire, perform, profit.
Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast. I am your host, Eric Thompson. This is episode number 9. I want to thank you, as always, for being a part of this. I greatly appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to this one because on this one, I have a very special guest. My good friend Dave Dornan is here. Say hello, Dave.
Hi there, folks.
Dave, thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here. I've been looking forward to it, Eric.
All right, fabulous. So Dave and I, we go back several years. Dave, you and I have known each other for 9 years.
9 years.
Just doing the math in my head. We've known each other 9 years. You and I worked together at an awesome company called The Group Real Estate, and you have been a realtor for 40 years.
Yes.
Yes, and you also have become really well known, and you are an expert at helping people with conflict, and specifically giving them strategies and dialogues and tools to help them with one of the most challenging and difficult things that can come up in someone's life, which is how to deal with conflict. And Dave, I'll just say to you right now, because there's some people listening, I wanted to say to you, I've learned so much from you. I've learned so much from you, things that have helped me not only in business, but things that have helped me at home. I think my wife would also be grateful for the things that you've taught me. So I'll just start by saying thank you for all that you've taught me and helping me to be better at conflict.
Thanks, Eric. Those are kind words.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. So you, parallel to your real estate career, so again, 40 years in real estate, parallel to your real estate career, you became really, like I said before, an expert at helping people with conflict. You developed a workshop, a 2-day workshop called Conflict Jiu-Jitsu. And I've been through that course, that workshop now 3 times, and I'll share a little bit more about that. But just to help people understand that a little bit more, tell us, for how long have you been teaching that particular workshop, Conflict Jiu-Jitsu?
Between 25 and 30 years.
25 to 30 years, so a long time.
Yep. It's not the same seminar it was when I started, because I continue to research and continue to have my own experiences. Right. But yes.
Right. Yeah, good on you. You didn't let it be stale, and you let it evolve over time. And
can I correct you on one thing? You called me an expert. You know, you've been in my seminars. You know, I always disclaim expert status. That's one of the first things I do. I teach conflict jiu-jitsu out of my own need. Conflict is something that finds all of us, and it has both high stakes, both dangerously high, and also high in opportunity. Some of the greatest growth in my life has come through conflict handled well. I teach it because I need it. So let's not call me an expert.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I also appreciate you always start your workshops saying just that. You'd say, not just because I'm standing in front of the room doesn't mean I'm the expert. You say oftentimes you're the best student, and you're the one who needs it the most.
I need it the most.
I respect your position on that. So how many people have you helped
Thousands.
through that workshop? So,
Thousands. And it's interesting, you know, before I was in real estate, I actually taught in public schools, and I taught at a university. I have a master's degree in education, went into real estate. Teacher never left me. And as I learned and found things I needed to know and improve in, it naturally became an expression that I wanted to share with other people. But for the longest time, my audiences were at nuclear power plants, government agencies, universities, Fortune 500 companies. Not until recently have my audience has been primarily my own people, realtors.
Yeah, so it was interesting. You were successful real estate
all around
career,
the country.
Yet your audiences and your students in these workshops were tended to not be realtors. The point is, this applies.
It's universal.
Any
Who's
business,
free of conflict?
Yeah.
And you know what? We're not doing conflict very well these days. Look at what's happening in our country right now. Yeah. Sharing conflict jiu-jitsu is a passion of mine, because we've got to get better for the good of our communities, for the good of our companies, for the good of our nation, and for the good of our own precious relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, speaking to that, after I took your workshop the first time, one of the biggest takeaways for me is that I want to take this now with my wife. So not because I felt like it was a place where she had to improve, it was a place where I wanted to improve even more, and I felt like she could help me be better by going through the workshop herself. So the second time I took it was with her. That was such a treat. We really enjoy it, and there are things I learned in that workshop that I use at home all the time with my wife, with my kids. It's helping me be a better husband, better dad. better with the people that I lead and manage. So it's been wonderful. Just
Well,
so many
believe
great
me,
tools.
Eric, my Jill, my wife, wants me to keep taking the class.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm with you on that. Yeah. Okay, so you and we're going to get to the specific thing we're going to talk about today, which is no. And you have taken parts of your multi-day workshops and turned that into a 1-hour workshop that's simply called About No.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to focus on in our time here together on the podcast. I thought we could help the listeners by giving them some strategies. No is a very important word. It's a very powerful word. So why don't we start with Dave, one of a big belief of yours and something that's very important in this workshop that you teach, the importance of getting no from others. So can you just tell us more about that? So please go on and tell us.
The presentation about no comes from Conflict Jiu-Jitsu and another 2-day seminar I do, which is called Living from the Inside Out. Okay, so I brought that elements from both of these workshops into this 1-hour presentation. I think let's think about. Well, first of all, let me start with a story. And I have a daughter and a son. They're now adults. I'm proud of my daughter. She's a nurse. But when she was 2 years old. By the way, what's the favorite word of a 2-year-old?
No.
No. And you have daughters?
I do. Yeah.
No. And Jill and I were outside Katie's door. And she had a deep voice in those years. And she was standing in her crib. She was still in a crib. She's standing up in her crib. And she was practicing for her 2-year-old day. She was hearing her voice say no, 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 no. No, she's like a football team doing calisthenics before her 2-year-old day. And Jill and I looked at each other and we said, me oh my, where did our little yes girl go? The little girl we could bundle up and she'd just go wherever we took her. But it struck us at that moment, up until that moment, Katie hadn't been a little yes girl. She'd only been powerless to say no. As trying as the 2-year-old period is for parents, it's an important developmental stage because, Eric, wouldn't you agree that our kids have a lot they need to learn how to say no to?
Oh, boy. Yeah, absolutely.
And don't we need to know how to say no?
Yeah.
And don't we all struggle sometimes with saying no?
Yeah, all the time.
And some of us feel real rejection when we receive no. So this is a very important developmental stage that some of us, myself included, continue in throughout our life. Right. But it starts at that 2-year-old. Yeah. And so kind of some basics is that the principle of the story, Eric, is that you can't authentically say yes if you're powerless to say no. Up until that point, Katie was powerless to say no. Another thing that we need to understand, and we'll bring this back to our clients that we work with. Basically, people want to feel safe and in control. Right?
Right. That's just human nature, right?
Human nature.
Yeah. Feel safe, in control. Yeah.
And the ability to say no is essential to feel safe.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel safe around a pushy client or a pushy date or that daredevil friend that wants you to take you up to the double black diamond ski slope when you're not comfortable on anything more than the blue? Yeah. We need to be able to feel like we can say no. And here's another thing that I would say. Stephen Covey influenced me. He passed away several years ago, but he said, backs and hands can be bought, but minds and hearts can only be volunteered. I'll amend that. Backs and hands can be bought or maybe coerced, but minds and hearts can only be volunteered. So do you volunteer yourself to somebody who can't take no for an answer?
No.
No, you don't. No. You reserve yourself. You protect yourself. See, so the road to a real and volunteered and authentic yes must allow for no along the way. So our clients want to feel safe and control. Their ability to say no is essential for them to feel safe with you. They can't authentically say yes to you if they feel powerless to say no. And so to get a volunteered and authentic yes from your clients, you must encourage no along the way.
Right. So this is counter to a lot of things that maybe some people have been taught, maybe more just like old school sales training or negotiation training, where it's all about getting to yes, just get them to say yes. It's just a string of yeses. Or that's not true at all, because they're powerless along the way.
Right. You know what you get, Eric? you get counterfeit yeses.
Right.
So what are some examples of counterfeit yeses you can think of?
I mean, just the person saying, "Yeah, okay, sure, I guess I can do that."
Yeah, let's do lunch.
People,
let's do lunch.
Yeah,
right. I'll try.
Right.
Oh,
right.
You're probably right.
We should get together.
We should get together.
Yeah.
All of these things are counterfeit. And sometimes, if you think about it, counterfeit yeses are a protective device that sometimes our clients use against us, because people don't want to say no. But beware of those counterfeit yeses. And one of the things that we desire, yes, that's what we want to get to. Yes, I'll buy the product. Yes, I agree with your idea for the company. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I want you to be my agent. But we're so focused on yes, we don't understand the power of no along the way. First of all, to build trust. When I was, what I always tried with my clients was to have them volunteer to me. Right? Stephen Covey, backs and hands can be bought, but minds and hearts can only be volunteered. And if people feel comfortable with you, and I want to share some techniques, some dialogues, if we could, on how to do this. But if people feel comfortable with you, if they volunteer to you, you don't have to worry when they go to an open house.
Right.
They're volunteered to you. Yeah. Have you ever had the privilege of having a coach, a mentor, a company commander, someone that you trusted so much? How much of you that you volunteered yourself to, and how much of you did they get? When you have clients that volunteer to you, when you hold on with an open hand, that's powerful.
Absolutely.
And then people feel they can refer to you because they don't feel like they're putting other people in harm's way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They know it's going to be safe.
Safe.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
The ability to say no is the key to trust, which is the key to safety.
Yeah. Fabulous. So let's get to some of those dialogues then. So how do you invite no?
Yeah. And so how do you invite no? Okay. So when I would, it starts with our first meeting. Having a dialogue is not phony. It's being prepared, mm-hmm. right? And so when I would first meet people, and my clientele included many people from the university, the president, vice presidents, presidents of deans, presidents of banks. Eric, I was never the smartest person in the room. I worked with really smart people, and you don't have to have these kind of titles to be a really intelligent person. But here's my dialogue. Okay, we'd sit down and I'd say, I work with a lot of smart people like you, and I know that smart people don't want to be sold or told. But what smart people want is good information so they can make good decisions. And I won't be timid. I'm going to share strong information with you. And then I would reach across, kind of like we're sitting at a table right now. Our listeners can't hear that. I reach towards the other side of the table and I tap the table. I'm going to see if I can make that sound come to the microphone. I tap the table and say, I know what side of the desk the decisions are made on. And I would feel people relax into that. And then the next step, I learn when you tell me no. I learn from you when you tell me no. I invite you to say no in our relationship.
That's great.
And then I get quiet.
Learn from you when you tell me no. Yeah,
then you get quiet.
That's really good.
Now, here's the next thing, though. You got to reinforce that. Yeah. Now, first of all, only say that if you mean it.
Yeah, right, because they can tell when you don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now what's the next thing you do? Now, by the way, I get some ideas. I always like to let people know the shoulders I stand on. And, Brene Brown and Stephen Covey and Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference.
All books that you reference.
All books,
yeah.
man,
yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
So now what do you do when somebody gives you a no? This is really important. So in our market, in this local market here in this metropolitan area, we're finding some people can't qualify to purchase in this city, and so they have to go some distance. We call it drive until you qualify. So I'll use a town, Johnstown, let's say, and let's say that a young couple is working with you or a single person is working with you, and they describe what they want, and you say, I found just what you want. You know what they can qualify for. I found just what you want. You want 4 bedrooms, you want a basement, a 2-car garage, pretty good sized lot. I found just what you want in Johnstown. And they say, we don't want to live in Johnstown. Now, in the back of your mind, you know all the reasons why they're not going to be able to get what they want any place other than Johnstown. And so we want to try and convince them. But you know what we say instead? We say it to me. We don't want to live in Johnstown.
We don't want to live in Johnstown. It's way too far away.
Good. What about Johnstown doesn't work for you? Now, let's think about that sentence. Say it back to me.
We don't want to live in Johnstown.
Good. Now, why do I say good?
Well, you're reinforcing
that it's what?
That it's okay.
It's okay to say
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Good. What about Johnstown doesn't work for you? Now, one of the keys to conflict jiu-jitsu, one of the facets of conflict jiu-jitsu is get curious. And I borrow from William Ury, Harvard Negotiation Project. It's really important to understand, look past the person's position to their underlying interest. When you say, good, what about Johnstown doesn't work for you? All sorts of information is going to be given to you about that person's underlying interests.
Right.
Don't squander that. You understand that authentic no, how much more valuable that is than counterfeit yeses. Mm-hmm. Trade 100 counterfeit yeses for one authentic no. Every day of the year.
Yeah, all day. Fantastic. Any others? Do you want to keep going with that, or you want to shift to our next topic?
Yeah,
terms of how to invite no, how to.
I want to say one other thing about no, and then maybe we ought to talk about saying no ourselves.
Yeah,
but there's another thing, and I want to get this from Chris Voss. Another thing from Chris Voss. He said, sometimes no doesn't mean no. Okay, but now, but I want to be very careful about that. Because there are certain, first of all, to be an ethical salesman, you got to take no for an answer. Because no is the appropriate answer sometimes.
Yeah.
To be ethical, you got to be able to take no. And also, you got to be careful with sometimes no doesn't mean no. Be careful with that, because there's some things, particularly in intimacies and physical types of things, where no is to be assumed absent a very vocal, full-throated yes. You with
Correct.
me?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I'm going to tell another story. I told the story about my daughter. Now I'm going to tell you a story. I think I may have told you this story before. People don't believe this, but it's true. You can confirm this with my wife. I asked Jill to marry me 43 times.
Is that all?
Yeah. So I did. This is a true story, not just made for podcast story. This is a true story. We disagree over the amount of time that it took that I asked those 43. But I asked her 43 times, and I would have gone away eventually. I didn't want to be a nuisance. Well, I
44 was a nuisance?
44 would have been a nuisance. I would have gone away eventually. But I sensed no didn't mean absolutely no. It meant I'm not ready yet. It meant you and I have some different beliefs, Dave. I got to see if I'm okay with that. It meant you're making me nervous asking me, back off a little bit. Well, let me tell you the way she finally said yes. So I went and we had a date, and I looked through her window. I went to pick her up, and she had my favorite dress on. I said, this is going to be a wonderful night. And I knocked on her door, and she opened it, and strung from the ceiling with string and construction paper were 43 yeses.
That's good.
But Eric, I had a new problem. I had to think, can I trust this woman's judgment?
Right.
But the point is, we've been married now 38 years. That's just 5 more years. I'll have a year for every no I got. But you've got to respect no. You've got to respect no. As a salesperson, we need to respect no. But see, but sometimes, after the caveat that there are certain things where no is to be assumed without a full-throated yes, right?
Yeah.
Right? Chris Voss would use these examples. He would say, what the customer's really saying to us when they say no is, I need more time. Mm-hmm. They're saying, I don't understand. Mm-hmm. You're making me uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can afford it. Mm-hmm. I need to talk to someone else. That's why the sentence, good, what about such and such isn't working for you? Right. It mines for the gold, the golden nose, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. That's fantastic. Super helpful. So now let's transition over to ourself and our own ability to say no.
Yeah.
super important. I'll just speak for me. There are many times where I could be better at saying no. And I also know that it's super important, and as a way to set boundaries, to respect ourselves, we need to be able to be better at saying no. So give us some help there. Give us some strategies on how we can say no ourselves.
Sure. First of all, one of the things that we do in the seminar Living from the Inside Out, which you have also taken, Eric, is we help people write their value statements. And one of my value statements has to do with living interdependently. And I won't go through the whole thing, but I will just extract one sentence from that value statement. I desire to serve, yet I resist the need to please. What do you think that means?
Well, you're there to help other people. You will, but you're not there just for their approval. You're there for them, not for yourself. You're not there to serve your own insecurities about feeding your need for approval. You're there to help them.
Wonderfully said. I love to serve. Done right, real estate is a stewardship business. We are serving people. I love doing my seminars. I love to serve. But the minute I'm in front of a room and I start getting nervous about what people are thinking about me, I'm no longer serving. I'm needing to please, right? And so often we fail to say no when no is the answer we should give out of our need to please. Right? There's only 168 hours in a week. And yes, people need to know how to say no because they need to preserve those precious hours. And the older I get, the more precious each one of those hours are. They need to preserve those precious hours to do the things that they really value. We need to learn how to say no. Now, hear me. I love to serve. I love to give money to my community. I love to volunteer my time as I am doing right now. I love to serve. And I hope people on the other end of this podcast are being served. But I also need to know how to say no. Because if I had said yes to something else, I might not be here right now because I would be off doing something I didn't want to be doing. But I'm going to give some tips. May I?
Please.
First of all, we are moral people, so we've got to view our word as a contract. We cannot give counterfeit yeses. If we say we're going to do it, we got to do it. Okay? Next thing is we got to speak on the first level. Jill and I, when we got married, every couple, I think, ought to have rules for fighting. And our first one was speak on the first level, which means say what you really mean. Don't require the other to be a mind reader, to be in a real. If you love me, you'd know what I want. No, speak on the first level. So tell people. Brene Brown says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. A clear, authentic no is kind. A counterfeit yes is unkind because people are operating on wrong assumptions. Yeah. Speak on the first level. Here's another thing. Don't make B and C time commitments too far in advance. Now, if you're on the other side, if you're an organizer go ask people 6 months in advance because people look at their day timers, there's nothing going on that day. But when in your life do you ever come 6 months ahead and not have as busy a day as every other day of your life? So don't make B and C. B and C priority things too far in advance. But I think at the core is to be prepared with what I call the three-step approach to saying no, the three-step, okay?
Okay.
And it's like anything else. If you're prepared, first of all, acknowledge the worthiness of the request or of the person. Say no now with a smile. That person who hesitates gets committed. It's almost like there's a clock ticking in your head. The longer you wait to say no, the more likely you are to hear a feeble yes come out of your mouth. And then the optional third step is give a brief explanation of why you must say no. Okay? Now, acknowledge the worthiness of the request of the person. Say no now with a smile. That smile is important because, we mirror one another. And when we're worried that we're going to offend the other person, we get this drawn face and, kind of Eeyore, and we say no. What does the other person do?
They're the same way.
And then we say, I knew they were going to be upset. Yeah. So just say it to me right now with a big smile. Eric, say no.
No, Dave.
Oh, yeah. I wish the people could have seen that smile. So look, how do you acknowledge the worthiness of the person? So, and I'll give you an example. Would you? Somebody comes to the door, and and says, listen, we're getting together a soccer club, and I know your kid's going to be playing on the soccer team this year. Would you be the coach? No, we're going to acknowledge the worthiness. That's a very important thing. Our kids' health is very important. Mm-hmm. And, given my, and it's a job that deserves to be done well. So acknowledging the worthiness, right? And because of the other commitments that I have, I'm just going to have to say no. And I say with a smile, right? So you see the smile? Okay, boom, boom, boom. Now, here's a place you can practice on telephone solicitors. A lot of times, we're very rude to telephone solicitors. I don't take a lot of those calls, but every once in a while I just need to practice. The other night, I had a person call me with a timeshare opportunity. I knew what was heading. Now, here's the thing we have to understand. We don't know who's on the other end of that phone. We don't know if that person is disabled, can do no other job. We don't know. But I don't want to. I can't honor the request of a timeshare, but I want to honor the worthiness of the person.
You have to show them respect as a human being, right?
Right. And so they went on, and I finally said, excuse me, you've got a tough job, and you're doing it very well, and I'm just going to have to say no. Yeah. Boom. Didn't put the third step,
great
not the
practice.
Third step. No,
yeah.
Great practice.
Yeah.
The third step, I didn't give a reason. I just said, I'm just going to have to say no. But think about all the times that person is called that night. And maybe it's a single parent. Maybe it's where they just were hung up on.
Right. Or rude things said to them or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. You've acknowledged them.
They acknowledged them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We served them, right?
Yeah.
So the 3-step has been very helpful.
That's really good. That's really good. Can I add one more that I've learned from you?
I wish you would.
And I learned this in conflict jiu-jitsu. And in your course, it only took me 3 times to start to master these things. But what you taught me, and I never forget this, use it all the time, you say no to say yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, me included, are more inclined to say yes. So you can actually view no as a yes.
Yeah.
You are viewing no as saying yes to other things.
I'm glad you reminded me.
Saying no to coaching the soccer team, you're actually saying yes to all kinds of other things. Maybe more time with your family, more time with your spouse, or more time doing something important at work, or more time taking care of your health, or whatever.
Think about that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Say no to say yes, because you can only say yes to so many things. Because think about what ends up happening anyway. When we say yes to something we're sorry about, it seethes out sideways. Our resentment, we don't do the job justice. That's why an authentic no is superior to a counterfeit yes.
Absolutely. All day. Well, Dave, this has just been amazing. It's been really helpful. Just so much value that you've added to us here, and great tools and takeaways. I just cannot thank you enough for this. And I'm guessing that there's some people listening who may be curious to know more about the 1-hour workshop about no. They may be curious to know more about conflict jiu-jitsu, your multi-day workshop. I will tell you, and I wouldn't say this about many things at all, I will tell you conflict jiu-jitsu will change your life. It will change your life. It will absolutely transform the way that you relate to people at home, in business. It will change your life. And so anyone out there that's curious to know more, I would encourage you to reach out to Dave. So Dave, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Right now, I think just an email at conflictjujitsu@gmail.com. I better spell that because there's different ways to spell jiu-jitsu. It's all one word, conflict, then JUJITSU. conflictjujitsu@gmail.com.
So one reason to take this workshop, Conflict Jiu-Jitsu, is to find out the meaning behind the name.
Yeah,
and so we'll just leave them with that little teaser.
It almost sounds aggressive, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but it's not
that at all. There's a really cool reason why you call it that. So.
Eric, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you. You're such an encourager. Thanks for the gift you've given me by allowing me to be with you today.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Dave. Yeah, it's been fabulous. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in and for listening. I greatly appreciate it. And we will catch you in the next podcast. Bye.